They say age brings peace and quiet, but sometimes it just brings clarity. I'm Matilda Buxton, born in 1949 in Charleston, South Carolina. Back in 2022 at 73, I used nearly all my retirement savings to buy my son, Lionel, and his family a beautiful home. I felt proud and useful, but then something happened that cracked my heart wide open. Today, at 75, sipping tea on a quiet porch in Florida, I'm finally sharing this because people need to hear how even love can be manipulated. If you're listening, drop your city below and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Lionel was my only child, and I raised him alone after my husband died in an accident when Lionel was 6. I worked 37 years as a financial advisor and never missed a single school recital or sick day. I didn't remarry. I poured everything I had into Lionel. That boy was my world. So when he married Clarabelle, I was hopeful. She was bright, bold, with a smile so big it could light up the room and a tone sharp enough to slice through steel when things didn't go her way. They had a daughter, Evie, who took after me in so many ways. Thoughtful, observant, full of questions. That little girl brought life into my bones. When they moved into a cramped apartment on the outskirts of Raleigh, I started thinking about giving them something more. "You've done enough already, Mom," Lionel would say, but there was always that glimmer in his eyes, like maybe, just maybe, he hoped I would ignore his words. I had just sold off my third rental property. My portfolio was still solid. I could swing a nice home if I dipped into my annuities and liquidated some bonds. And so, after a few months of late-night calculations and prayer, I offered. "I want to buy you three a home," I told them over dinner one Sunday. Evie squealed. Clarabelle clapped her hands like she'd won the lottery. Lionel leaned over and kissed my forehead. "We don't deserve you," he said. "No," I whispered back, "you do." That was the beginning of my unraveling, and I didn't even know it yet. I had envisioned something modest, a 4-bedroom in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood near Evie's school. But the more we looked, the more Clarabelle's tastes escalated. "This one's too small. This kitchen's outdated. We need a media room." At first, I went along because I wanted them to be happy. Then one day she pointed to a listing in the Highland District. I blinked at the price tag. "Clarabelle," I said slowly, "that's well beyond my budget." She laughed and tossed her perfectly curled hair. "It's an investment in the family. You always say that." Lionel said nothing, just scrolled through photos on his phone. I searched his face for resistance but found none. I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe Clarabelle was just excited. Maybe Lionel trusted I'd say no if it were truly too much. So I said yes. The house on Wisteria Lane had marble countertops, hardwood floors, and a second-floor balcony that looked out over a community lake. It was beautiful, but it was also $217,000 over what I'd originally planned to spend. I cashed out stocks I'd kept untouched since the 90s. We moved in June. Or rather, they moved in. I wasn't invited to stay. I'd assumed I'd get a guest room, maybe live in a little in-law suite until I decided my next move. But Clarabelle handed me a key and a gift basket. "For all your generosity," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I stayed quiet. I told myself not to rock the boat. Maybe they just wanted space to settle in. But that space widened each week. Calls came less frequently. My dinners went unreturned. Even Evie started sounding unsure when she picked up the phone. "Mommy says you're resting a lot these days," she'd say. "Is that true?" I'd chuckle and change the subject. But inside, something stung. 3 months later, they invited me to the housewarming party. My invitation came via text. "Party this Saturday, 4 p.m. Dress light. See."
"No, Mom. No quorums."
Just an obligation. Still, I showed up with a lemon bundt cake and a potted lily. Guests swarmed the house. Some of Clarabelle's family I'd never met. Her sister stood by the fire pit, sipping sangria. Her brother bragged loudly about his sister's house and how she snagged a smart one. Smart one? I moved from group to group like a ghost. Lionel barely made eye contact. Clarabelle was busy giving a tour. I walked upstairs to use the bathroom and heard them standing in the master bedroom with the door slightly ajar. She thinks we owe her forever, Clarabelle hissed. She bought the place. That's it. She's not part of our future.
Lionel sighed.
She's just lonely. So? Let her be lonely in her own house. She's not moving in. Ever. Then she laughed a cold, dry laugh that I didn't recognize. And that's when I knew. I wasn't family anymore. I was a wallet with legs. I tiptoed back down, left the cake on the dining table, and walked out without saying goodbye. No one noticed. I didn't cry right away. I went home, took off my earrings, undid my bun.
Prevettea.
Then I sat on the couch and wept until my body trembled. The next morning I called my lawyer. I didn't ask for the house back. I wasn't going to stoop to a legal battle. But I made a few things clear. The deed was in my name. They'd pressured me into upgrading the insurance, but skipped coverage for foundational repairs. I made sure that when issues arose I wouldn't be liable. And they did arise. November brought heavy rains. A week later Lionel called. Mom, there's water seeping into the basement. Oh no, I said. Have you called a contractor? We can't afford one. I sipped my tea. That must be hard. He paused. We could use your help. I paused too, just long enough. Let me think about it. I never called back. They sent emails. Clarabelle tried sweet talk. Lionel even brought Evie over once. I kissed her cheeks and gave her cocoa, but when she left, I sent a polite message. I will always love Evie, but I am done financing people who see me as disposable. No more contact followed after that. By Christmas, I had sold my condo and booked a one-way flight to Tampa. Wallace, an old college friend, had invited me to visit. We'd reconnected at a mutual friend's funeral years ago. He was kind, silly, and gentle in a way I hadn't known I needed. We watched old movies, talked politics, went walking at sunrise. One afternoon, sitting under the palm trees, he said, "You gave them a palace, Tilly. But what have you given yourself?" That question cracked something open in me. I booked a long-term stay, invested in a little art studio, took dance classes for seniors. I even started painting again, something I hadn't done since Lionel was a toddler. By spring I smiled without forcing it. One night I got a letter. Handwritten.
Mom, I'm sorry.
We messed up. We were greedy. I understand if you never forgive me, but please know I regret it. I read it twice. Then I folded it and placed it in a drawer. Forgiveness might come one day, but reconciliation, that's another story. I didn't reply to Lionel's letter. Not out of hatred, but out of self-preservation. I knew that if I let my guard down again, I'd be right back in the same trap. A mother's love doesn't expire, but neither should her self-worth. The way they discarded me still clung to my bones like humidity in August. I'd sacrificed not just my money, but my presence, my heart, and in return, they offered me cold smiles and locked doors. Wallace, bless his soul, never asked questions I wasn't ready to answer. One day he simply showed up with a basket of mangoes and said, "Thought these might sweeten your mood." We peeled and sliced them on the back porch while watching the sunset bleed orange across the bay. I hadn't laughed in months, but that evening I couldn't stop giggling at the mess the juice made down his chin. "You're ridiculous," I told him. "Yeah," he said, wiping his mouth, "but at least I'm your ridiculous now." And just like that, something inside me softened. I had been so focused on what I'd lost. Family, trust, the illusion of appreciation that I hadn't noticed what I was gaining. Peace, companionship, and a life that was finally mine to live. Still, memories have a way of curling under locked doors. Evie called one Saturday morning. I almost didn't pick up, but something in my chest told me to. "Grandma," she whispered like a secret. "Yes, baby. I miss you." My heart twisted. "I miss you too, Angel." There was a pause. "Daddy says you don't love us anymore." That shattered me more than Clarabelle ever could. "Oh, Evie," I said gently, "that's not true. I love you bigger than the ocean and deeper than the sky." "Then why don't you come visit?" I wanted to answer. I wanted to throw a bag in the car and drive straight to her. But I couldn't. Not yet. Because sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, I said slowly. And when they do, it's not safe to be around them until they understand what they did wrong. She went quiet. "Mommy says you're just mad about the party." I bit my lip. "That party? You know what, sweetheart? That party was the day I realized some people celebrate what they didn't earn." She didn't understand, of course. She was just a child. But the words weren't for her, they were for me. A reminder. Before we hung up, I told her, "You'll always have a room with me if you need it. Anytime, any day." By the time spring faded into summer, things had shifted again. Lionel called. Not a text. Not an email. A real call. I let it go to voicemail. "Hi, Mom." His voice crackled, worn and unsure. "We had to move out. The water damage got worse. The foundation's unstable. We're back in that old apartment. I know I messed up. Clarabelle left. She said I was too soft on you. Maybe she was right. Maybe I should have been softer. I wish I could take it back." Click. I stared at the screen for a long while. Not from triumph, but from sorrow. Clarabelle had left? Part of me wasn't surprised. The house was never about family, it was about image. And when the image cracked, so did the bond. Still, I didn't respond. Wallace noticed me quieter that day. He didn't prod, but after dinner he handed me a sealed envelope. "I wrote you something," he said. "For no reason other than, I see you." Inside was a drawing. A messy hand-sketched doodle of me in a sun hat, holding a lemon pie. Underneath it, "Queen of boundaries, maker of sunshine." I laughed and cried at the same time. "I'm not a queen," I sniffled. "No," he smiled. "You're a matriarch. There's a difference." Late August brought the final twist. One morning I received a package. No return label. Just a plain white box with my name on it. Inside was the key to the house on Wisteria Lane. No note.
No explanation.
I called my lawyer. "It's been signed over," he confirmed. "Officially yours again." Lionel surrendered it entirely. Said he didn't want anything to do with it anymore. I sat in silence. It felt like holding the bones of a ghost. 2 weeks later, I drove up to Raleigh. Alone. The house looked the same from the outside, but the energy was hollow. I walked through each room, my feet echoing on floors that once held birthday balloons and fake gratitude. In the kitchen, I saw a crumpled drawing Evie must have left. It showed 3 stick figures. One with gray hair, one with a sad face, and a little girl holding both their hands. I took it with me. I didn't stay long. I met a realtor that same afternoon. Listed the house the next morning. A month later, it sold for enough to replace nearly everything I had liquidated plus interest. But I wasn't planning to invest it in others this time. This time, I was investing in myself. It's been a year now. I'm back in Florida. The air is thick with salt and laughter. Wallace and I started a community garden for seniors. Every Thursday, we host sunset storytime on our porch. People bring lawn chairs and listen while I read old tales or share new ones. People always ask, "What happened with your son?" I tell them this. I loved him too hard for too long. But one day, I realized that loving someone doesn't mean letting them walk all over your heart. I still talk to Evie. She writes letters with glitter pens. We video chat on Sundays. Lionel calls sometimes. We speak, but there's distance now. Respectful distance. He asked once if I'd ever visit. I said, I already did. He didn't understand. But that's all right. Some journeys are walked alone. And some forgiveness doesn't come in the form of reunion, it comes in the form of release. Because the best revenge isn't rage. It's reclaiming your peace, your dignity, and your smile. It's letting go of what hurt you without ever letting go of yourself.
Moral lesson.
Always protect your peace. Never trade love for silence. Choose joy over obligation. Your worth isn't tied to being needed. Like this video, subscribe to the channel and share with a friend. Comment your thoughts or your own story below. We're listening.